Hey, this is Christian Buckley, and I'm here with Mark Cashman. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Christian?
I'm doing great. And we were just talking about, I've heard this from a few folks that they're excited about this idea of, SharePoint Conference North America. Here we are, Microsoft partnering with this external group to put on this, bring back what is the 7th standalone SharePoint conference. But I've heard from some people, it's like, well, why would I go to this event versus I was planning on going to Ignite or sending some folks from my team to Ignite. Why is this one special?
Yeah, well, this one's certainly special because it feels like we're bringing it back. If you think about what was the value in the past before Ignite existed, it was that we had a specific conference with dedicated sessions, dedicated people, the breadth and depth that was primarily focused on SharePoint. Certainly as we've grown up, and really the whole reason why Ignite exists or evolved was that there was a lot of other products that it started to interact with us and vice versa. There wasn't really an Office client type event. There was never an event just for Microsoft Teams, a lot of the new technology. So when you go to Ignite, you get a breadth of everything across Office and Windows and Azure. And so there's a lot, which means, the set amount of sessions and the depth of training and hands-on labs and workshops, just are a little bit smaller and somewhat maybe more tuned to the news and announcements versus the depth of training on existing technology. And, if you think about individuals, whether they're using the technology, they're developing for the technology, or they're managing the environment, thinking on-prem, online, hybrid, wherever a company is deployed, there are going to still be lots of people that need that depth. And there will be certainly lots of training available at Ignite. We've had lots of great success of being at Ignite. The biggest benefit of Ignite is, you're talking about X, Y, or Z, and then there's maybe an integration point that comes up or a reference to another team or product. And you literally can say, they're right over there. But at the same time, sometimes we don't get to the level of depth or training that is expected if somebody is coming to get super deep on SharePoint, super deep on those key integration points that we own. And that's not to say that you couldn't find that right discussion or conversation in Ignite, whether it's ad hoc or very planned. But it's almost a guarantee when you come to the SharePoint conference, you're going to get all the latest news and announcements. You're going to get the depth of training on now technology, planning and strategy for future technology. You have a lot more hands on deck, so you've got more people from the engineering team, more MVPs that are solely focused on SharePoint and getting people through to best practices, patterns and practices for developers. If you think about it, there's another paradigm for when should a developer come to the SharePoint conference versus go to build.
Right. Yep.
And so we've always had a decent presence at build. It's kind of a different type of developer engagement in terms of there's a lot of Azure and just web development in build. And more of SharePoint is becoming that same type of pattern and practice for the developer. But I tell you, when you get into the SharePoint framework, we may have a session or two and a kind of a hands-on lab or walkthrough and a meeting time for people to go deep on SharePoint framework, but not nearly as deep as we're going to be able to offer through the SharePoint conference. Not only are we going to talk about all the news and announcements for SharePoint framework and have dedicated sessions about the SharePoint framework and workshops that go in the depth of how to use and actually you join in and build. Be able to accomplish that at Build or Ignite, we don't have as many slots we can fit into.
Right.
So for that, developer that knows they're in a SharePoint shop and they've already been developing and they want to learn, how to avoid, maybe missteps in the future or how to transition from today to tomorrow, or I'm moving from online to on-prem to online. That depth will be there. I know what's planned. I know who's giving those talks. And knowing that we would have some of that at Build or some of that Ignite is great for the person who just needs to know a little bit or to be kept up to date. But for somebody who's either really new and needs that depth, and that's what they're being sent for,
right,
they will get that in spades. And that's just one example for a developer.
One of the benefits of a dedicated SharePoint conference is that the depth of personnel. So that if you have questions, if you can't reach the product team, you've got the MVPs and RDs and everybody else that is there. All of the majority of influencers in the space that are there that you can meet, network with, ask questions in depth. dedicated to that topic, it's going to be easier, I think, to find those people and connect with them than it would be at the other conferences.
Yep. And I think that plays into the other aspect that's, of course, always been a strength of the SharePoint conference, and really year-round, one of them certainly is the community. If you imagine going to a number of different, events when you're at Ignite or something like Build, you will always find your people. And I don't mean that it's just the people, but really the SharePoint community is very strong in the sense of when they get together, you really do find a lot of time, not session time, and not workshop time, but that time, whether it's in the morning for the SharePoint runners or it's in the afternoon, with people breaking for coffee, or things that are scheduled like a night event. We always like SharePoints, and we like big events, but the conversations, whether you seek them or they are happening organically, will be very focused on SharePoint and taking from what's happened during the day and discussing that at night. And the other aspect of community, which we feel very strongly about, which I think is even more intensified when you come to a SharePoint conference versus going to something that's a little bit more broader in context, is the ecosystem, the representation of partners. So when you go to the expo hall, a lot of them will be at Ignite. I don't want to try to blend the two in a false way, but there will be the conversations when you go to the expo hall are explicitly and only around SharePoint and integrations with other technologies that relate to what you would expect around publishing and content management, forums and business solutions, development. But development, when you're thinking SharePoint development. Yep. And our ecosystem just then, exemplifies and, is something that when you go to the expo hall, you will be able to talk to everybody in the expo hall about a SharePoint question, something you've been curious, hey, I want to do this. They don't offer it out of the box. And guaranteed you will be able to find that partner/solution a more targeted way than potentially at Ignite, where they may or may not be there, which is possible, or harder to find in the mix that those people that are staffing the booth, have to kind of expect that they're going to be SharePoint and other questions.
Yeah. And I know for everybody that's out there, we're going to be talking in future episodes specifically around what's happening around the community. I know, so Bill Bears talked a lot about, because he's helping coordinate the planning with the SPCNA team, the external team that's putting on the event, setting up, because there's multiple floors looking down on the expo hall, and there's community areas, places to go and find people and engage. There's going to be a lot of shows, podcasts being recorded. I know we're going to be doing 3 live tweet jams happening from the event on the 3 main days of the conference. So just a ton going on that you'll be able to participate in. And so in future episodes, we're also, and Mark, I know we're going to have you back on some other ones where we'll talk about community. We're also going to have in future episodes some of the internal Microsoft and the external leaders that helped select the content and put the program together. Mm-hmm. And so we have those episodes coming up over the next couple of weeks. But Mark, for that, thanks a lot for your time today. If you've not yet registered, please go out to SharePointNA.com and you'll find the information that's out there. I know that not all of the sessions are yet up there. The team keeps adding things to the site, but go take a look and start asking questions now. Look at who's participating. Reach out and follow people. We need a Twitter list to follow. Somebody needs to do that for the event. Hey. I'll talk with Michael and Lyman about building that.
I feel like, the biggest question I've been getting is this SPC North America thing, is it the real deal? I can't quite tell or whatnot. And, there's no question in my mind it is the real deal. If you think about who's attending, what's going to be shared there, obviously the planning that goes beyond news and announcements, so real training, real hands-on. Obviously a first look at some things that will be pretty exciting, both server and service.
So it's great that also SharePoint North America, it combines with the SharePoint, the virtual event. So whether or not you're able to be there live, there's going to be content and news and networking and connection happening online as well. So
yeah, I think with your efforts in Collab Talk during the week, obviously the keynote being streamed, those types of things, there will be a way to keep a pulse on whether you can go or not. But if you're still asking, should I go? Hopefully a lot of what we talked about and things that you hear from us give you a sense that it is the real deal. You'll get a ton of value out of it. And we're investing so that it's a great event, in addition to that the people that are all investing beyond Microsoft to make it a great event as well.
Yep, agreed. Mark, thanks a lot for your time.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Sounds good.